Someone in your life has already mapped out exactly how to move you. They know which sentence makes you apologize for something that wasn't your fault, and they're about to use it again. Here's what happens the day it stops working.
This channel is Wisdom of the Stoics, and every video here does the same thing. Takes 2,000-year-old philosophy and aims it directly at a fight you're actually having. Today's fight is manipulation. Not the obvious kind, the disguised kind. The guilt trip dressed as concern, the urgency dressed as care, the rewritten memory dressed as honesty. It works because it hides, and the person using it is counting on exactly one thing: that you'll never learn the words that make it stop. 7 of those words are coming, and they escalate, because manipulation always escalates. The last one is the hardest sentence you'll ever have to say to someone you love. Epictetus, born a slave, wrote something that still unsettles people 2,000 years later. No one can hurt you without your cooperation. A manipulator's entire method runs on borrowed power, power you're free to withhold. That doesn't make manipulation harmless. It means their move and your response are 2 different events, and only one of them belongs to you. Hold that thought. It's about to get tested 7 times, starting with the version of this that feels almost too small to name. Level 1. Someone sighs heavily, mentions how tired they are, how nobody ever helps them, right after asking you for a favor you hadn't agreed to yet. This is the entry drug of manipulation. Guilt offered without a request attached, because a request can be refused and a feeling can't. It's small enough that calling it out sounds paranoid, which is exactly why it works so reliably on reasonable people. The response: I hear that, and I still see it differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote that no one is obligated to adopt someone else's judgment as their own, that another person's opinion of a situation is theirs to hold, not yours to inherit automatically. This line does exactly that. It lets their feeling exist in the room without letting it become your instruction. Small tactic, but it's rarely alone. It tends to travel with a second one, and the second one moves faster. Level 2. The deadline that appears out of nowhere. I need an answer right now. Everyone else already said yes. If you don't decide today, the offer's gone. Urgency is manufactured pressure, and it works because a decision made in a hurry is a decision made by fear instead of reason, and fear is a far more predictable animal to negotiate with than a calm mind. The response: I won't be rushed into deciding. Seneca warned his friend Lucilius that almost everything we later regret was decided in the narrow gap before reason had time to catch up with feeling, and he treated the deliberate slowing of a decision as one of the highest forms of self-respect a person could practice. This sentence closes that gap on command. It costs you nothing to say. It costs the manipulator everything, because their entire leverage depends on the clock running out before you have time to think. Level 3 is where it stops being clumsy and starts being clever. The blame gets vague on purpose. You always do this. You know what you did. I shouldn't have to spell it out. No specifics ever, because specifics can be disproven and vagueness can't. It's an accusation built with no surface to grab onto. The response: help me understand exactly what you want from me. Epictetus divided the world into what's up to us and what's not, and he treated deliberate vagueness as a kind of theft because it steals your ability to respond to anything real, leaving you defending against a shape instead of a fact. Force the accusation into words, and one of 2 things happens. It clarifies into something specific and reasonable, something you can actually address, or it collapses the moment it has to be said plainly out loud, because it was never built to survive daylight.
Now it gets personal. Level 4 is when someone rewrites something that actually happened right in front of you with total confidence. No hesitation, no doubt in their voice at all. That never happened. You're remembering it wrong. I never said that. This is no longer social friction. This is an attempt to relocate you inside someone else's version of reality, and the confidence is the tactic, not a side effect of it. The Stoics had a word for a perception held so clearly and so accurately that it can't be argued out of you by force of personality alone: catalepsis, a firm grasp. The response, that's not how I remember it. Notice what it doesn't do. It doesn't call them a liar. It doesn't demand they admit fault. You are not required to win the argument. You're only required to keep hold of what you actually know. A boundary doesn't need the other person's agreement to be real, and neither does your memory. If a video's ever going to earn a subscribe from you, it's this one, because what's coming next is the part manipulation actually depends on, not strangers, people who are supposed to love you. Level 5, the silent treatment, or its louder cousin, the sudden withdrawal. The coldness that shows up the exact moment you say no to something. No fight, no words, just a temperature drop you're expected to notice and fix. This is punishment disguised as hurt feelings, and it's engineered to make you chase the relationship back into safety by giving in first, every time, so that saying no starts to feel more expensive than it actually is. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, in a private journal he never expected anyone else to read, that he wasn't obligated to attend every argument he was invited to, that some invitations exist purely to be declined. The response, I'm not available for this conversation right now. Not a slammed door, a closed one, calmly. You can love someone completely and still refuse to be their punishment. Level 6 is the moment where the pressure and the affection arrive at the same time on purpose, so that questioning one feels like rejecting the other. If you really loved me, you'd just do this. After everything I've done for you, this is nothing. Manufactured urgency wearing the mask of intimacy aimed at the exact place where you're least defended, because love is precisely where most people stop checking their own reasoning. This is where Epictetus's discipline of prosoche matters most. Close attention, the refusal to let an impression rush past you unexamined before you've had a chance to test it against what's actually true. The response, let's slow down. 4 words, they take the manipulator's favorite weapon, speed, and remove it entirely from the table, right at the moment it's being aimed at the person they're counting on you loving too much to question, which is usually them, and sometimes it's you. Level 7 is the one nobody wants to reach, because it isn't a single conversation, it's a pattern repeated for years, from someone whose love you never doubted, not once, even while their manipulation never actually stopped. This is the level where the first 6 responses stop being enough, because the person isn't testing one boundary, they've built an entire relationship around you never finding one. Marcus Aurelius wrote near the end of his life that a good act doesn't require a witness to be real, that goodness done in private, unseen, unrewarded, still counts as fully as goodness performed for an audience. This response doesn't require a witness either. I still care about you, and the answer is still no. It refuses the final trick, the one where you're forced to choose between kindness and firmness, as if a person can't hold both at once, as if love and a limit have ever actually been opposites. It is not cold. Said honestly, it's the warmest sentence in this entire video, because it costs you the comfort of pretending everything is fine and gives them the truth instead, which is a harder gift than silence and a rarer one.
Here's what none of these 7 sentences do. They don't win the argument. They don't punish the manipulator. They don't require the other person to admit anything, apologize, or even understand what just happened. And that last part matters more than it sounds like it should. Because waiting for a manipulator to understand what they've done is usually just another way of staying stuck. What they do is smaller and far more durable. They close the loop where their leverage used to live. Epictetus called the daily repetition of this kind of discipline ascesis, training. And he meant it exactly the way an athlete means it. A movement rehearsed so many times, the body stops needing the mind's permission to perform it correctly under pressure. Nobody says any of these 7 sentences perfectly the first time they try. That was never the standard. The standard is that you tried. And next time, it costs you less. So here's the actual assignment. Not all 7, not tonight. Pick the level that matches the person you're already picturing, the one you thought of the moment this video started. It might be level 1, a coworker who sighs on cue. It might be level 7, and if it is, I'm not asking you to say it today. I'm asking you to notice, this week, exactly how many times the pattern repeats. Because noticing without reacting is its own kind of discipline, and it usually comes before the sentence, not after it. Use one response, once, in an ordinary moment, not a crisis. Then come back and tell me what happened the day it stopped working on them. Quick recap. In order of how quietly each one starts and how loudly it can end. 1. I hear that, and I still see it differently. For the guilt offered without a request attached. 2. I won't be rushed into deciding. For the deadline that was never actually real. 3. Help me understand exactly what you want from me. For the accusation with no specifics to grab onto. 4. That's not how I remember it. For the rewritten version of something you were actually there for. 5. I'm not available for this conversation right now. For the punishment wearing the disguise of hurt distance. 6. Let's slow down. For the pressure that arrived wearing love's clothes. And 7. I still care about you. And the answer is still no. For the pattern that took years, sometimes a lifetime, to finally have a name. If this helped, send it to the one person who's currently picturing someone too. That's the only way philosophy has ever actually traveled. One person handing it to the next. Hit like if you want the next one this deep. Subscribe if you don't have it yet, and tell me in the comments which level you're currently living in. Not the one that's easiest to admit, the real one. Until next time, stay grounded, stay rational, and remember what Marcus Aurelius told himself on the mornings the world felt heaviest. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.